here tonight, Mr. Stanley Jacobs. He's the General Secretary of the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association. Stanley, welcome. I'm actually quite happy that you are the first guest I have on my new show. So I have to put this one down in the record books. So thanks for being available and open to having this little quick discussion. Now, as I told the guests on bench meeting, this is a very holistic perspective of sport, not just from the perspective of what's happening on the field, but what happens behind the scenes, and more importantly now, how we're planning to go forward in light of all of the new eventualities as it relates to COVID-19. So maybe you could start off by telling us how COVID-19, from your perspective, from an administrator's perspective, how has it affected football locally, personally, internationally?
Good evening to everyone, and thank you very much, Kenneth Bob, for the invitation. I've been an administrator of football all my life, and I've not made it to the bench. So, as I say, there's a first in everything. So I'm actually delighted to be on the bench, either as a substitute or whatever.
Whatever role we play is good because we help in what's up going on the field.
Of course, I'm delighted to be on the bench. And thank you for the invitation to be here. I just wanted to, of course, say good evening to everyone out in Radio Land that are listening. And, of course, encourage a lot of everyone to join into this new football program. I'm happy to be your first sports guest. Now, to get down to the meat of the discussion in terms of COVID-19. COVID-19 would impacted the world negatively and quite immensely, and in particular every facet of life, and sports has been no exception. COVID-19 has impacted sports throughout the globe, caused the postponement of the Olympics. Exactly. And many sporting events, and so from an administrative perspective, COVID-19 was a great challenge for us in St. Kitts and Nevis and globally. Is in terms of, for the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association, we postponed all our matches at the end of March, at the onset of COVID cases, even before any COVID cases here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But not just locally, internationally. FIFA sprung into action, partnering with the World Health Organization to come up with the COVID-19 protocols and what we can do during COVID and post-COVID, because we had to prepare for life, with COVID,
yes.
And of course, and so emerge from those collaboration between FIFA and the World Health Organization, a set of protocols that were able to guide the restart of football globally.
Okay.
And that was important for us, and we were able to use those protocols, working with the local health authorities here to put those protocols in place to restart.
So when you had shut down, it was more at that stage. It was more precautionary, and it was on the advisement of what was happening internationally. Were there international fixtures that have been cancelled / postponed, even if from a regional perspective?
Yes, tremendous, right. So for us in St. Kitts and Nevis, we acted out of an abundance of caution,
right,
and also, but everything kind of spiraled after that. Okay. We saw the postponement of matches within the CONCACAF qualifiers. Of course, this year is a World Cup qualifying
year. That's
what
I was wondering about.
2020 is a World Cup qualifying year for Qatar 2022. Those matches should have taken place starting in October. They have now been rescheduled to March 2021. We also had a postponement of a U20 and U17 men's competition. Mm-hmm. So the regional competitions calendar has been affected as our local calendar. Okay. And so what we're now looking at is further word from CONCACAF as to the rescheduling of the under 20, under 17.
Under 20 and under 17, because I think there was some word out in terms of the senior men's team and the restarting of the. Why I'm asking, because I know Trinidad was recently suspended, so I think CONCACAF had given them, or CFU had given them a little time period by which they can get the suspension thing cleared. Otherwise, Antigua will replace them on the list. That's the only reason that came to mind. But I think they're giving up until December, I believe.
Right.
When
So,
they're going to have some games played or something of the sort.
right. Well, the World Cup qualifiers, Qatar qualifiers, are being postponed until March of 2022.
Okay, so they have been postponed to March.
They have been postponed to March of
Okay,
2022.
okay. So that situation is just so as to make sure that whatever is postponed.
Right. The reason behind the postponement, because as you was aware, CONCACAF held its draw, and out of that draw, they had already announced a start date. I think, which was of the FIFA window in October, which I think commenced on around the 5th of October.
Oh yes,
because the international qualifiers are always played around the FIFA window.
Right.
However, that was problematic for the region, because the region is still on the lockdown. A lot of countries within the CONCACAF region are still experiencing international travel would have been virtually impossible for teams.
Yes.
I mean, you could only imagine that the matches are played on a home and away basis. So how logistically how are you going to play?
Nightmare for many countries.
You'll have to travel to quarantine for 14 days before you can play your match. It's not realistic on the ground.
No.
And so CONCACAF considers those obstacles and those problems, and have postponed the matches until March.
Or maybe we'll get to it later, but is it that they're going to try and do the... Well, later on we will. I guess we'll get to it, because I'm wondering now about the format of the matches, if they'll be home and away or if they'll be bubble-based or something of the sort.
Well, I mean, you're thinking ahead, but we don't know what the environment will be like in March 2021.
Okay.
We are hoping that there would be at least, the tailoring off of COVID-19, and you will begin to see the easing of international travel. I guess once we get to that stage, we'll have to determine
whether or not.
Right. But as for now, the matches are scheduled. You play two matches at home and two matches away.
Okay, that's by okay. So in terms of the SKNFA now, COVID hit us. What were some of your initial responses? Because sometimes what happens is that as administrators, we want to respond quickly, but we also want to respond decisively. What were some of the initiatives? Because sometimes we as the general public don't appreciate, because we don't get the window that we're getting now. Mm-hmm. So what were some of the initiatives from the SKNFA's perspective that had been initiated once you realized what was happening?
Right. So one of the first things that the SKNFA did was to put in place what is called a medical committee, and that committee was charged with coming up with a set of local protocols, because I mean the global protocols, they are good, and we will take them and tailor them to meet our specific needs. Right. Okay. So we were able to do that, and working very closely with the Ministry of Sports, which is the line ministry, in terms of communicating with the COVID-19 task force. And we were able to put in place a phased approach, a three-step phase approach, with one being return to small-sided training, and we put in place the protocols for those.
Okay. Right.
Then we moved to step 2, which was teams training, and then the third phase, competition, which we are now in. So we went through that
gradual approach.
Right.
Okay. So the teams would have been allowed some small-sided training, just to get the fitness levels up, tactical work done. Then as you go along, you can do a bit more team training or increase the numbers, and now you reach a competition stage. But each stage you're following the specific protocols as you expand.
And not only that, we did realize that in order for the teams to return to training, they will need some measure of COVID-19 safety supplies.
Right.
So from the very onset, the SKNFA was very proactive in procuring a number of supplies: hand sanitizers, soap dispensers, the thermometer gun, face masks, water bottles for every player because the concern was
Okay,
that
yes, yes,
the
yes.
sharing of water bottles will,
Yes,
in the new
okay.
norm, that will be something that will be discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
So we purchase enough water bottles for every single player that plays in all the
Are
leagues.
you allowing fans in the stands?
Right, the current emergency regulations that we operate under allow for 50% capacity of the stadium.
Okay. Okay.
We're not going to get anywhere close there, but I mean,
Yes, at least
yes,
you have the capacity to host whom would attend now.
yes,
It's just
exactly,
obvious change in seating arrangements
yes,
and otherwise
exactly.
to facilitate. All righty. FIFA have they been supportive of the SKNFA and by extension the regional bodies, the federations, CFU, CONCACAF, in terms of, because I know the biggest people look at football as money making, but football is one of the most money intensive sports there is out there in terms of planning and preparation. What support has been provided from?
Well, I mean, FIFA has been extremely supportive, financially and otherwise. During the lockdown, everything moved online. So from training courses, coaching courses,
Great.
Administrative courses, seminars, and so during the lockdown months, we weren't just locked down in the house. We actually were involved in a number of online courses
Okay.
and meetings with FIFA in order to plan the way forward. And one of the things that came out of FIFA is financial support to all 211 member
Countries.
associations, right, of FIFA. And FIFA provided what they approved was a grant of 1.5 million US dollars, which were $500,000 to be disbursed immediately. That was disbursed in August of this year.
Right.
There is a $500,000 that is earmarked specifically for women's football development.
Okay.
And
yes.
you only get that, member countries only get that funds after they have submitted their comprehensive women's development plan and all of that. So we're in the process now of putting together our comprehensive women's development plan to send it off to FIFA once it's approved.
Right.
But those funds are tailor-made for specifically for women's football.
Right.
And then the second tranche of the grant of 500,000 grants is becomes payable at the 31st of January, but only on full accountability of the
Once
first
you've given
the first tranche.
The first
Yes.
tranche. Now let me ask this question. I'm more interested in the online training and everything else. Have you guys been able to use that now to, let's say, train the coaches and players and stuff like that into this new format? Because giving them that edge would make them a bit more marketable. That's the best word to use, marketable, in the new environment that is going to be created once COVID-19 becomes the norm. Have we started doing some, I wouldn't want to use, community-based training, or because these things are now online, so you could almost zoom in and
Right. So we had a number of online seminars leading up to the restart of football, where based on different topics. So we and these were our SKNFA initiative, not FIFA initiative. So we had sessions on physical training and preparedness for return to football.
Right.
That was specifically designed and geared towards targeting the players as to, after being dormant for so much months, how do you begin to retrain your body to get your body back
up?
It's a bit
of lethargy built up,
yes.
right?
We did training referees session because some of the rules as a result of COVID-19 have changed, and so we did a topic designated for referees, and we did administrators and different topics. And
Did it include the new handball rule for them too?
yes. So we did all these training online, and so we were using our time, our downtime, effectively.
Okay.
So that by the time we get back to football,
And everybody, at least from the administrative perspective, on a ready to go kind of basis. All right. What gaps? Because obviously there's no perfect plan, because this whole COVID thing is new to all of us. What gaps, now that you've started the rollout? Because for me, a successful rollout of a sporting program at this point is one where you have the necessary protocols in place, you have the necessary testing in place, and there are no cases of, which we are benefited from personally, because we aren't, or we don't have any active COVID cases. But the mere fact that we are practicing the protocols now sort of prepares us for that point. Are there any gaps that you see now, based on how things have been unfolding, that you think could be plugged, things we can do better, things we can learn better, that type of thing?
Right. Of course, there's always going to, and it's going to be a long learning curve for us, because COVID-19 doesn't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. And so we'll have to learn to live with the virus. And that means adopting and readapting to as we go along, as we learn. One of the areas that we know that as we begin to even open up the borders, it becomes even more challenging.
Yes.
So we have to seriously consider a worst case scenario. Will we be able to stream the games, so that continue to play the games and play them in an empty stadium like how they're doing around the world? So we are already beginning to position ourselves for that eventuality. If it happens, we're hoping that it doesn't happen, but you still have to plan as if it's going to happen.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question.
Yes.
What method, what actual plans are you putting in place to mitigate?
Right. So those are
yes,
right. That's
yes,
one of the things
yes.
that we're looking at. We also have to, one of the challenge for us in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I guess it'll be with a lot of the smaller Caribbean regions without a lot of resources, is that we would have to come up with an effective way of recording persons that are coming through the stadium. Okay. And so maybe if any tech person out there that is within the sound of my voice, that is a solution that is badly needed. So when you're watching the games, I don't know if you had the opportunity to see a lot of the games on television. You see persons walk
Facebook
up to
Live, yes,
you see persons walk up to the entrance, the ticket barrier.
Right.
They scan their cell phone and they walk in. Now, so that collects the data as to everyone that is in the stadium.
Okay.
For us, we don't have that technology. So what we're doing presently is that we're recording every single person manually. So we take down your name, we take down your number.
So you need a ticketing system. You're referring to almost like a ticketing system, which can serve as a record system.
A record system for whoever comes in the stadium, because that will be critical. That will be critical information if contact tracing is necessary.
Kind of Agreed.
And if we can get a system that not only pinpoints the person, that only records the persons that are coming into the stadium, but also records which area of the stadium the person is
so you're talking about numbered seating now, and persons being assigned to seats. But yeah, that is an opportunity for tech.
For tech,
yeah,
yes. Because if there's contact trace, right.
Yeah.
If there was someone that has been exposed, then you wouldn't want to know what section of the stadium the person were, so that the person was, so that you don't have to. So if the person was only sitting in the stand and there were only 50 persons in the stand, then you zero in on those 50 rather than
panic the entire stadium.
And
wonder about it.
Exactly.
Okay. And I also like the idea about the streaming, the live streaming. I'm seeing.
Well, right now we're streaming 50% of our games.
Great. I was watching the Newtown game last night, a piece of it via the stream, and it was quite interesting and entertaining.
Yes.
So I'm glad to see that there is some adaptation in terms of the media. And what I would like to see more of maybe is maybe get some more young people involved, because you would not believe how technologically savvy some of these younger persons are, and those who may have an interest but may not necessarily have the sporting capacity to make it on the higher levels. You could probably introduce them to things like that, and they take it and run with it. So I'm glad to see that the SKNFA though is being at the forefront in these things. So tell me now, Stanley, based on your in terms of your closing statements, based on your perspective now, where is it do we need to be at as, because remember I always like to say we on the bench. So where is it do we need to be at as fans, as fellow players, as administrators, in terms of think it's football and the direction it's going and how COVID is going to affect it, as far as you see it now?
For us, and I think for everyone, it is going to be a challenge in terms of the way we move forward. We know a lot of things is going to change, and the players and the spectators, they're adapting. I've been at the stadium from since the restart of football. I see persons wearing their face masks, persons are sanitizing their hands, their physical distancing. So that is happening. We also getting the cooperation from the players, because we have to change a lot of the logistics around the stadium in terms of how you get in, how the players get in, how the players get out, the protocols that the players have to go through in order to get in. It's a little lengthy and tedious, but they have been extremely cooperative in that. So we see that it's going to be a learning curve. On the international scene, for us, the biggest challenge is going to be international travel due to COVID-19. For World Cup qualifiers, will we have our overseas-based players available? Because you're right, especially in England, where they are playing in a bubble, and so. You take, for example, a player like Romain Sawyers. It would not work for him to travel, and then when he go back to England, he have to quarantine for 14 days. So those are the implications.
The England quarantine time is the same 14 days as
I stand corrected, but I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, probably. What I would suggest, well, maybe I would think that because CPL did it. CPL successfully held a bubble. I didn't hear of any incidents of COVID-19, and I mean the competition itself started to deteriorate from some perspectives because of the pitches and everything else. But football wouldn't necessarily suffer from that type of. But maybe we should try and do a Caribbean bubble of some kind, sit down as a union and come up with a strategic flight pattern where we can sanitize and maintain protocols within these particular island chains or whatever the case
is. I mean, it's something that, I mean, I have thought about, I have discussed it at higher circles, but the decision really will be that of CONCACAF, because it's a CONCACAF tournament.
Yes.
And so CONCACAF will have to take the lead role, because it will impact the grouping and everything.
Agreed.
So they will have to take the group. But it's not, like I said, I agree with you. I think it's something for consideration. If come match, international travel is still restricted.
And then even in saying that, USA and Mexico and Canada is still part of the CONCACAF. I mean, Canada not too bad, but definitely USA and Mexico. And also you bring down a Mexico and a USA team here. Now you're looking to infect me bubbles. So, so those are considerations. So, it's be interesting. I mean, I think everybody wants to see football continue to play. Everybody wants to see the advancement of football and their countrymen being able to make the waves that Romain is making. Everybody wants to see St. Kitts continue to rise within the football rankings. I think it's important to find out what our new normal is.
Exactly.
But you're right. We need to change our culture overall in terms of when we attend in the games. You have to appreciate that you are protecting not just yourself, but you're protecting the entire match by following all protocols. You make sure that you are aware of what you need to protect yourself as well too. Make sure that you don't do like what some international athletes have done and take unnecessary risks and put everything in jeopardy.
Right. And it's important for us, and it's important for our stakeholders and our spectators to understand that they are also part of the, it's a whole collaborative work, and they play a big role. At the end of the day, we wouldn't want the COVID-19 task force to shut us down because we were not following the protocol. Agreed. So, I mean, if we want football to play, I think it's all hands on deck. Everyone have to play their part as uncomfortable as it may be. You hear a lot of people say, I'm not comfortable wearing the face mask, but it's the new requirement, it's the new norm. And once you're inside the stadium, you will be required to wear the face mask. You will be required to sanitize as you come into the gate. You'll be required to take your temperature as you come into the gate.
Quickly, Sandy, I know I said it was the last one, but quickly, do we still broadcast our games live?
Currently, we are only doing the live stream.
Only live stream.
Yes.
So we still haven't gotten it on live. We haven't gotten it on live TV yet.
Not on live TV as yet, because for the region and live TV is not for the region is far fetched because a number of things is economies of scale. Now, live television come at extreme cost because you're talking about the production and the distribution, and the production part of it is quite expensive.
Yeah.
But then the distribution and who you're going to distribute it, the distribution market. Now, for small markets like St. Kitts and Nevis, because you're distributing the content literally for free.
What I'm going to do, I am taking a note of this here, right? We're going to have a follow-up conversation on this, because I believe there's opportunity for, as you said, maybe to scale, but there's an opportunity there, as you say, that maybe some private sector firm.
Yeah, well, let's take St. Kitts and Nevis, for example. Yeah. There's only one television broadcast station, and it's a ZIZ.
Right.
So what would have to happen is that ZIZ is a broadcast station, and they also can do production. So normally what you have, because just for people to understand how this works, normally you will have a production company that comes in and film the sport, whatever sport it is.
Right.
So there's this production company, that's what they specialize in. They will come in, they will produce the NBA finals, produce the football, whatever. Then it goes to a distributing company, whether the distribution company is ESPN, CNN, whoever. This distribution company have a broad audience that they are selling this product to. We don't have those economies here. So what you find happening in St. Kitts and Nevis is that, okay, the production company and the television station, they're all the same. And there's a cost to them. So, of course, they have to recover their costs.
Right.
So how are they going to cover their costs? Well, there's one way to cover the cost is maybe through selling advertisements.
Right.
But because we're such a small market, how much advertisements you will send? Because remember that when they distribute this product, they're distributing it, but they're not distributing it as a cost. They're distributing it to the general public for free. So that is how people, when you think about broadcast, that is the difficulty in terms of broadcasting.
I get a good grasp of what you. I just have what, maybe it's a bit idealistic, but I want to, as I said, I'm going to save that conversation for when we. I'm certain we will meet again in the near
so
future.
what will have to what if you don't have the market to sell the end product to, then you find that the production company and the broadcast company end up having to make up that cost through sponsorship, which is going to be a lot of sponsorship in order to cover the cost.
Okay, I take your point. I'm going to follow up on you on that sooner rather than later. Yeah. Because I am currently working on one or two little projects there, and one of them does involve some sort of broadcasting.
Right. So that is why CPL can broadcast,
because they have a market.
They have a market. They have a huge market.
They have a market. All right. Thank you very much for being here with us, Stanley. It was a very, very enlightening conversation, especially as it relates to the COVID-19 protocols and how it's been affecting us, we have been able to respond to it as a federation and under the guidance of the SKNFA in terms of a return to football. There have been some exciting games on the weekend, and I hope that can continue at least into the very distant future once we continue to maintain the